Okay, hello, my future self. This is my framework. We just finished Heme Renal, our first exam of M2 year, and I'm going to put my framework for Pharm for my reference later. Before I go into, I'm doing the renal one right now. Before I go into it, of course, I have to acknowledge what the whole unit is about. Heme Renal, they put them together for a reason. It's not just two random things together. Rather, heme is the components of the blood, whereas renal is what controls the blood as a whole. I used to think of the kidneys, renal, as pee. Oh, it's just pee, whatever. No, kidney is extremely important. The kidney is the waterbender of the body. Avatar: The Last Airbender. The kidney is the one that controls the fluid in the body. So I finally started realizing that. But it's actually more than that. It doesn't just control the fluid, it also controls the blood. Yes, it controls the fluid, the liquid component of blood, but it also controls the solid component of blood because it's the one that makes erythropoietin, which is what triggers you to make more red blood cells. That's the solid component of blood. So the kidneys are really important. Now when I think who's the king of blood, I don't think of the heart anymore, I think of the kidneys. That's why Dr. Obi, shout out Dr. Obi, the nephrologist, always says the heart beats to perfuse the kidney. It's not the heart that's the most important and priority, it's the kidney. Obviously, that's not really the heart is important in everything, but that's just like, now my vibe of kidneys is more important. It's more significant in my mind than it used to be, is the overall idea. So anyways, I don't think about the kidneys as just pee anymore. I think of them as controlling the blood. That's why heme and renal were taught together. This is the components of blood. This is blood as a whole. What do I mean by the components of blood? I'm just talking about the solid components. Red blood cells, white blood cells, and clotting. So we had red versus white for heme, and then clotting stuff, which are platelets and coag factors within that. Red, white, clot, that's heme. Versus renal, all controls the blood. Red, white, clot, that's heme. Versus renal controls the blood as a whole. How do I divide up renal? By the tubule rather than by this. So when it comes to renal Pharm, I guess I could say it's this versus this. If I had to make it two, to make it yin and yang, I would say it's the strongest pair versus the last pair, I guess, or the garbage pair. Why did I put these two as the verses and leave this one out? Because this one is so like minor and just less important. So these two diuretics can barely do anything. They're not very strong diuretics. They don't make you pee that much. They're used for for other things. So we divide it by the parts of the tubule. I have my tubules in 3 pairs, of course, instead of 6 parts. So if I number it, the first part is the PCT. The second part is the descending tubule. This third part is the ascending tubule. This fourth part is the early distal. This fifth part is the late distal. And then the sixth part is the collecting duct. In this Pharm, they treated 5 and 6 as basically the same thing. So they act like a late distal doesn't exist, and they just call it the collecting duct for whatever reason. So that's not how I learned it in phys, but now that's how they treat it. So it's kind of a thing that goes back and forth. So I'm just going to treat it that way. So the last pair is kind of not even a pair. You could look at it as a pair, or you could look at it as just one part of the tubule. Or yeah, just one single segment of the tubule. So those are my pairs. Let's start with this one. Mannitol equals sugar. It's just a sugar. It's an osmotic diuretic. Osmotic means moving water. So all it does is pull water. It's just tonicity. It pulls water into your blood so that blood can, into your bloodstream, so that blood, no. you put the mannitol into their blood. The mannitol gets filtered into their pee in the tubule. And then since the mannitol is there and it has tonicity, that like pulls in more water into the tubule, so they'll pee more. Basically, something like that. I think that's it. The main thing about this one actually was that it can pull water from the blood into the pee, but it can also pull water from the brain into the blood. So yes, it can make them pee more, but it can also be used to treat brain swelling, what they call cerebral edema. So that's a little trick that neurosurgeons use, is what we learned in class. And then I heard from somebody that neurosurgeons never do that, actually. So whatever. But maybe for STEP, that's what they do. So that's mannitol. Next, carbonic anhydrase inhibitor. So what's my nickname for this? The base breaker. It blocks carbonic anhydrase. What does carbonic anhydrase do? It makes base. It makes carbonic acid, this thing. And the whole point of this thing is that it can split up into these two parts, an acid and a base. This part is the juicy part, the base, bicarb. I don't say bicarb anymore when I'm thinking in my head. I just say base because that's its significance. So basically, carbonic anhydrase makes bicarb. Of course, it's more complicated than that. That's the main point. So this thing stops carbonic anhydrase, so I call it the base breaker. So you use it to treat acid-base problems. Obviously, it will make you... It'll make you more acidic, which is why it's the name of the drug we learned was acetazolamide, but I spell it acid-azolamide. So it'll make you more acidic, so it can treat acidosis, not just acid-based stuff in general. Sorry, it can treat alkalosis because it makes you more acidic. Alkalosis. And it can also treat these weird general things. I just tell myself, since it's in a general part of the tubule, because mannitol, I align them up to like one part of the tubule each, these drugs, but actually mannitol acts on both parts and CA inhibitor acts on both parts. So these ones are like general and loose. They don't have really a specific part of the tubule that they act on. So since they're general and loose and they're not very specific in their function, they're also general in what they treat. They treat these weird random things like glaucoma, mountain sickness. Obviously, it's a diuretic, so it's removing fluid from the body. So, glaucoma, eye swelling, or like too much eye juice or something. Don't remember the specifics. It's going to pull that out. So it treats that. And then it treats altitude sickness. But the cooler name is mountain sickness. Cool. Furosemide. Why did I draw a square here? Because it's the quad. It's also called, we nicknamed it in class, the Beast. Shout out Dr. Johnson. The Beast. It's the Beast. It's the strongest. It moves all ions. Well, not the furosemide. I mean the freaking loop. The port. The transporter in this part of the tubule is the Beast. So furosemide drug acts on the Beast. And it's not just furosemide, it's loop diuretics, of which furosemide is the main one. So, yeah, the Beast, he's strong. So because he's so strong, you lose all positive ions. Versus thiazide is the second strongest, so you lose all positive ions except calcium. Because thiazide is the second strongest. It does almost as much as the loop diuretic. So that's why they're the strongest pair. The strongest and the second strongest. You think of it in chess, you can think of it as a king and queen or something. Of course, the queen is actually stronger in chess, but I'm putting it like this. Okay. Lose all positive ions. It's really strong. And they're also like the most effective diuretics. So why are they the strongest? They cause the most diuresis. They cause you to pee the most dramatic amounts of pee, and they lose most positive ions. They're the strongest. So basically you have sulfa-based versus non-sulfa. Sulfa, the non-sulfa was the crybaby. Ethacrynic acid equals crybaby from Monsters Inc., the cute little girl in the purple outfit. Because sulfa equals Sully equals the beast from Monsters Inc. And that's all the other ones. So Furo, he's a furry beast. Sully is furry. He has a long torso, torsamide, and he's loud. Boo! The whole point of Monsters Inc. is that they make money and generate energy by yelling boo at kids. So it's like boometidine or something. Good. Good. Okay. Yeah, if you look at Sully from Monsters Inc., his body is literally all torso. Yeah, I need him scaring a kid. Rah! He's very ugly. He's very scary. He yells boo. His torso is literally 90% of his body. And he roars at you so loud that your ears are going to definitely hurt and not work after. And that's why these things cause loop. They cause autotoxicity. But it's also because of the two O's. Just gonna put that here. Because autotoxicity. Okay, and then the little girl. I need a little girl. Monsters Inc. Boo! Oh, she's so cute. Little rascal. No, I need her crying. I need her crying because it's ethacrynic. She's a little crybaby. Never forget this part of the movie where she started crying. She was so sassy in the movie. All of a sudden, she became a crybaby all of a sudden. I'm scared. Blah, blah, blah. All right, there you go. Thiazide. Thighs. Big thighs. Athletic thighs. No, I need one of those Olympians. Olympian track. Come on. Okay, let me just be honest about it. Give me that girl. That one girl. I think she's Jamaican. Yeah, I need somebody athletic running a race. I can't find that one girl that was on all over Instagram, but whatever. Why did I say Jamaican? I think she's Nigerian. In fact, I should use Nigerian anyway, shouldn't I? As a Nigerian. Yeah, the thighs need to be strong. The thighs need to be... Good. All right, thighs. So in order to have thick thighs, you have to be big boned, keep calcium. Thiazide to make you keep calcium, as in absorb calcium, keep it in your blood, and not lose it in your pee. So they need to be big boned in order to, but thighs also require muscle and energy, athleticism. So there's the big bone part. There's also the athletic part, which means that they need to be able to relax their blood vessels. And there's also the running part. So I think of running away from a bear. It activates the sympathetics, which of course blocks insulin because sympathetics mimic glucagon. Why? Because when you're running away from a bear, your rest and digest doesn't need to be on. Your fight or flight needs to be on. Your rest and digest needs to be off. You don't need to be digesting food and using insulin, so it inhibits insulin. So these three parts have levels to them. It's a gradation. So the big boned, all the thiazides make you keep calcium. All of them are big boned. But only the thiazide likes, which are better and more powerful and just more better, by the way, than the thiazide. Only the thiazide likes, which have thal in the name, unless they don't, have this additional ability of relaxing the blood vessels through the carbonic anhydrase, vascular carbonic anhydrase inhibition, and nitric oxide production. That blood vessel doesn't look like a blood vessel. I mean, that blood drop. Okay, good. And then it gets even more specific for the next ability. Only one of these thiazide likes, the one with thal in the name, chlorthalidone, can do the sympathetic part. So there's a gradation to it. Yes. Shout out Min and Ngazi, because I had that mixed up before the exam. I got it in time. So there's the bone part, there's the blood vessel part, and there's the lightning part. Okay, good. That's that. So those are the three special effects of thiazides outside of just making you pee out all your ions and pee out a bunch of water. I need to put extra concepts here. Salt water is another concept I have because water follows sodium. When people lose sodium, they lose water. When they lose water, they lose sodium. It's just all connected, so it's easier for me to just call it salt water and have them as one thing. Potassium sparing. So these guys, the strongest, are potassium wasting because you lose all your positive ions, including potassium. This pair that comes right after them is potassium sparing. Now, potassium sparing. So potassium wasting versus sparing. This pair versus this pair. So these guys are unique because they're the potassium sparing ones. Potassium sparing. You can either act on Big Al, Fat Albert, aldosterone, and inhibit him, aldosterone antagonist, or you can it can be a sodium channel blocker. Because if the sodium can't move, then the waste can't move, aka the acid and the potassium can't move, which is why it's potassium sparing. You can't get rid of it. So these guys are the garbage men. Or it's not really men, it's more like the garbage man. This guy barely ever gets talked about. It's very minor, so it's really mostly all about this. This one's like kind of side character, minor, not as this is the main thing I'm thinking about here. So he's the garbage man, Fat Albert, the garbage man. And I forgot, he's actually, it's good that I put a crown here because I forgot that he's the third strongest. Meaning that even though the strongest pair are like the main ones I'm thinking of when I'm thinking about like causing lots of diuresis or treating CHF, for instance. Right, they can treat CHF. They can treat a really severe disease, congestive heart failure, right? One of the most important severe parts of the body, the heart. They can treat that because they're the strongest. Well, guess what? This guy can also treat it. Among other things, like obviously hypokalemia because it causes you to keep potassium. Anyways, Fat Al, right? His name is aldosterone. sterone because he's a steroid. And so these guys are inhibiting him. They also have own in the name. Spironolactone and eplerenone. And the really nice thing is that when you use this drug, you're inhibiting a steroid. So you're inhibiting corticosteroid 2, cortisol. You're inhibiting stress. So you're inhibiting sympathetics or something like that. I don't remember why. Cortisol, stress. I don't remember why I'm not remembering. It was basically something like this thing has some sort of anti-sympathetic effect or something. I don't remember. Anyways, one thing about Al is he's very masculine. He's masculinity. So when you block the aldosterone, you're blocking their masculinity. They can get gynecomastia. That's a side effect. Basically, men can get breasts because it's you took away some of their masculine hormones or whatever, that kind of vibe. And if there's hirsutism, where somebody is 2, where a woman has masculine features, then if you block some of this masculinity for some of this fat Albert, then you can treat that. So the woman can have like a lot of excess hair and stuff like that, and then it can be treated by this. So that's aldosterone, fat Albert. The sodium channel blockers. So there's a relationship between, it's potassium sparing because sodium and potassium have a rival relationship. They tend to move opposite directions, antiport. So of course the movement of sodium will affect the movement of his friend, his rival, his enemy, potassium. Naruto Sasuke. Na and K, they're rivals. So sodium channel blocker. So it's triamterene and amiluride. And then the anti-ADH. Right, anti-vasopressin. Vasopressin receptor blocker. They all have VAP in the name. They have VAP in the name. Oh yeah, that wasn't it. That's part of it. Vasopressin kind of matches the name. But the main thing was AVP is another name for ADH, for vasopressin. So if it's anti-ADH, it's anti-AVP. You mix up the letters. And you get that. So they have that in the name. So those are ones that block vasopressin. So instead of conserving water, you pee out all your water. Okay, so that's it. All right. What's the framework of renal diuretics? It's the tubule, the 3 pairs of the tubule. Or I could say, what's the framework of renal diuretics? What's the yin yang of it? It's the strongest pair versus the garbage pair. That's another way I could say it. With this weak pair as an odd man out. I know left some stuff out, probably side effects and things. Oh yeah, like you don't want to give thiazide with digoxin. If you put those thick thighs with the digoxin, you can end up with a broken heart. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Because it can cause arrhythmia because of so heart problems because of increased potassium. So bad DDI. Okay, that's enough.